Hello friends, and welcome back to another tips and tricks video. We're gonna make this image flex. I call it image flex because we're gonna use CSS flex, and using input radio and labels we're gonna make this cool image flex again. So let's just jump right into the project. So I should say this is also fully responsive, so if you can see if we change the size, there we go, it's just responsive. All right, let's begin. So I have my HTML and CSS files uh, already created in a folder with few images that I got from pixels.com, this website. I'm going to close this one. And we're going to use these images. I converted them to WebP for performance because they're quite big. And I have live server running. So let's just start with the boilerplate. Oops, I mean CSS in the HTML file. There we go. We're just going to call it image flex. Image flex, and first I'm gonna have a section just to wrap everything within it, and we're gonna have input of type radio. I'm gonna call it names. So all these radios should have the same name because we want them to be in the same category or group. I'm gonna give it an ID of image1. You can give it what ID you like, but keeping it that way because my images have that name. I'm going to use a label with the for attribute that has the same name as the ID of my input. And this label should wrap everything within it. I also want to give it a class of card. So cards, plural, is the name of the inputs. Card just as the class of my label. And within that, I will have an image that will point to my images, number one, and the width of that should be 500 because they're quite big. Okay, so there we go. And maybe I should give this a class too. I'm going to give it a class of background or just BG. Okay, now within that, I will have another div with the ID, with the class of title, sorry. And within that, I will have an image with the class of logo, and this will just points to my logo. Now this you could use whichever you want. Oh, super duper big, so I'm gonna I was wondering where's my image. So width of maybe 10. Oh, too small, sorry, 50. There we go. And another div which would have a title that says this is the title, and then a p tag with some dummy text, 15 words, and there we go. If you don't know any of this, I have two videos explaining all the form inputs and labels and also HTML fundamentals. They are linked in the description, so you can watch them. Now, first of all, I don't want this tiny little, check, a radio check. So I'm going to say hidden. I'm going to use the hidden attribute on the element itself. Also, I want it to be checked. So the first one, I want it to be checked when the user loads the page, and I actually want to delete it. First copy it, okay, and then put it back, because the rest of them should not be checked. So I'm going to copy paste this 5 more times. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and oops, 5 times is enough. Let's go back up. So image 1, I'm going to change these to 2. I'm pressing Control D on my keyboard to select multiple similar characters. That's how you say it. 4 and 5. Oh, I did need another one. Sorry. 6. So because I have 6 images. There we go. And I think we should be done with the HTML for now. I just want to link my CSS file and say go to get that CSS from here. So we're good. Let's jump to CSS. I'm gonna reset the CSS quickly. Margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing should be border box. That's it. Let's jump to the body and say that font family should be something rather than the default, and we're gonna use the height on this one of 100 view height because I want it to center everything. Display flex, justify content center, bam. Align items center. There we go. And I think we're done with the body. Now let's jump to the section. We called it the section just using the tag name section. I'm going to give it a height of 85 view height and a width of 85 view width. You can use any numbers you would like this, but we're using view height and view width, so it would be responsive. And I'm going to use this display flex again on my section because everything needs to go next to each other, and gap using some gap between the elements, 1 rem, and also overflow should be hidden. There we go. That's the area we're working on. So I'm just going to give it a background of aqua, for example, so we know where we're working. All right, within the section, we had the input. So we don't need this because it's hidden. So we don't need to do anything with it for now. Let's target label with the class of card. So we're going to say card, right? First of all, everything should be relative. I mean, position should be relative, so everything within it should be absolute. Height should be 100% all the way. And we're going to give it overflow of hidden again. And then what else? The cursor I want to put it at pointer because it kind of acts like a clickable things, right? And initially, when we give the flex display to the parent, the children should have they have flex 1 as default, but I want to give them 0.2 because I want them to be small. Right now we don't see any differences for now, but we'll see in a moment. Let's call the images now. I mean the background. So we called it card. Within the card we have bg class dot bg. Okay. So this again should have a height of 100%, a width of 100%, and this will stretch the images. We're gonna say object fit cover to keep the ratio. I'm gonna give it a border radius of 30 pixel. We should repeat this actually. This border radius, I'm gonna put it on the card itself too, because when we zoom, if they don't have the border radius, it will kind of messes up everything. I think we're good. Now I'm gonna remove this aqua background on my section, so because right now it's fine. I also want to give it some shadows, some very soft shadows to these images, and I'm using getcssscan.com. So CSS scan website has all these shadows. I'm going to use 38 for example, and bam, there we go. It's almost impossible to see. Wait, I'm giving it to the image. I'm sorry, I should give it to the box. There we go. Again, doesn't make any difference. Anywho, we're gonna keep it like that. Now, when I click on these, they should expand. And actually, the first one, because it's checked, it should expand. It should be expanded by default. So now we want to say, go get the input that has a type of radio, right? So this is how we select it by the attribute type. And then check if it's checked. What happened? All right, check if it's checked. And grab the card, the first child, or the adjacent. See, this is adjacent to the first adjacent card, right? And set the flex of that to 4, for example, or 5, depending again on your preference. So if you put really high numbers like 8, see, it will just squish these things, so it becomes difficult to click on them. But I'm going to keep it at 4, or maybe even, yeah, 3. Depends. Again, if we do this, yeah. So I'm going to keep it at 4. 4 I think is good, especially when it is expanded. Okay, you can play with that number. Now, this works, but it doesn't have a transition, so we're going to add the transition to the card itself. We're going to say transition all 0.4 second, for example, and ease. There we go. Again, these numbers are really just on, depends on your preference. Now we want to apply the zoom thing. Before we do that, let's see. I want to give this title div. So we're going to go into the card and select the title class and say position absolute bottom 0, left 0, and then some padding, maybe for now 50 pixel all around. So I just want to have it on the image itself, and we will fix all of these problems. For now, we're gonna apply the animation for the zoom. So keyframe, we're gonna call it zoom. When it is at 0%, for example, the transform scale property should be 1, okay? And I'm gonna copy paste this, copy, paste, paste. When it is at 50%, it should be double, for example. And when it is 100%, it should go back to 1. The reason I'm doing this because I don't want it to snap, when it says already 2, snap back to 1. I want it to become zoom in and out. Now, we could apply this to the card itself. Okay, so we're going to say zoom, for example. It's not correct, but just to show you why. Zoom, let's say 10 seconds, and then infinite. So just goes on and on and on. You see what happens? It actually, woo, it's gonna goes, it's not what we want. So we actually want to apply this. I'm gonna copy paste this to input radio checked. When the radio is checked, go to the card and get that BG, right? And then apply that animation to the BG, to the background image, not the card itself. If I save it, you see what happens? This is what we want, right? Now, this is too fast, way too fast. We want it to be very slow. There we go, 80 seconds. Kind of give that magical zoom attribute kind of thing or feeling. Now, this is again depending on you, how much do you want it to be fast or slow. Let's focus on this title part. I'm going to go down. I'm going to say on my title. So first off, let's say we want everything to be, first of all, it needs to be flex, display flex. There we go. And justify content. No, align items. Center. I don't want to use justify content because it's by default it's left, and that's what I want. And I think we're good. Should I use gap? I can use gap to rem. Yeah. Let's go to the title. Let's see. Need to go to the card title and h3. I'm gonna go inside the card title div h3. We don't have to use that. We don't have to go like this, but just really pointing to the right element. I could say here the color should be white, so it goes to all the text. Now I can change the font size here. So I want to say the title should be 1.5 rem. I think that's good. And it has a margin bottom of maybe 0.6 rem. I think maybe 0.8. Yeah, for now. I think I don't really care about the paragraph really. And the font, I'm not a big fan of the font, but I don't want to bring a external font just for this example. Maybe give it a font size of 0.9 rem to the paragraph. It's too small. Just keep it the way they default for now. I just want to target the image. What did I call it? Class of logo. So within the title, so card title logo. I'm going to give it a border radius of 100%, so I want it to be round, and width 60%. Ooh, too big, sorry. 40, 20, 10, 15. All right, it doesn't matter really. Just you can play with this again. But that's basically it. We just have to now apply the animation to this title container. First, let's define the animation. So I'm going to use another keyframe, and I'm going to call it text anim, short for animation. Why not, right? And at 0%, so this one, 0%, this should have an opacity of 0, so it will be invisible. And then transform, I'm going to use transform translate Y, so I want it to approach from bottom. Let's say 30 pixel. We can play with this number. If it's sometimes it will not go out all the way, so you can play with these numbers. So, and when it is at 100%, opacity should be 1, not 10. 1, which is 100% visible, and this should be 0. Now, initially, we want this to be invisible. So we're going to apply the opacity 0 to the title itself. Why doesn't this have a semicolon? Opacity 0, bam. Let's see how it looks. Oh, I forgot. I forgot to apply the animation itself. So we're going to apply the animation when the card is open. So again, let's go back up. We want to say when this card, again, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it underneath here. When the radio is checked, go to the card and grab the title. Okay, and apply the animation. Animation, we called it text anim, and this one should be 0.6 second, for example. Ease in and out. We want to give it a bit of a delay, so we want this to be fully expanded. Well, let's not give it a delay for now, see how it looks. You see, when I open the card, you see the text, it kind of expands, right? Because it will expand as the card is expanding. And that's why the delay should come in, because we want the image to be fully expanded, then this animation comes in. So there we go. That's what I want. You could give it even a background. For example, this is kind of white on white. So I would use this CSS gradient website that is called cssgradient.io, and we can use, for example, black, but the top one, so 0 degrees. All right, so you can use a linear gradient, right? So the top one, which is this one, should have an opacity of 0. And I'm going to copy this, go to the project, apply it to the title class. There we go. There it is. Now let's play with the padding. I want padding on top should be a 100 pixel, and the rest 50. There we go. So that will, this kind of a gradient that goes higher. That's what I want. That's it, really. Let's see if I forgot anything. So there it is, guys. That is all about this cool image flex. And you can see again, this is responsive. Okay, so my image, my logo, it's not the right size. I want this, maybe we should give it a fixed amount. But again, this is not really important. I could give it maybe 600. What am I doing? Maybe 150 pixel. Too much. Maybe even 100 pixel. So this will be a fixed size. So if I expand this one now, and oh, okay. So you see, this is why I said I need to check things. So you can see my background. It's not fully expanded. So all we need to do, just give this title. Let me expand this one too. Just give this one of the width of 100%. That's it. There we go. So let's inspect this one. And you can see it's already fully responsive. It's quite cool, isn't it? Without any JavaScript. There's a lot we can do with CSS and HTML, but these days especially. But you know, I personally like to keep my site simple and to the point, because you know, too much I would say too much effects will reduce the performance and the users will be frustrated, especially if the ones that they don't have fast internet or a good machine. Anyway, guys, this is the image flicks tips and tricks video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this has been helpful, and I want to thank you all for your views and subscribes and likes. If you're not subscribed, please make sure you do so, and I'll catch you at the next one. Thanks. Bye bye.